Hello everyone, this is Joanna. Thank you so much for coming back. These are going to be your messages for the month of February 2019. Happy Valentine's Day for those of you who are celebrating. Very interesting energies. Majority of the signs, if not everyone that I've done, has had a lot of information about how to heal our hearts. And my intention is, as always, and I will repeat this again, my intention is to help you see certain things perhaps that you were not able to see before, and to help you perhaps recognize certain thought patterns. My passion is to help you think differently about yourself so that you can align yourself more in terms of abundance. So what a beautiful time to talk about healing our hearts, because February, traditionally speaking, is considered to be the month of love, at least in North America. So there's a lot of information on what might be tripping you up, how you are holding yourself hostage, what makes you stuck in your own inner prison, and what are some of the things that you can do in order to shift and change that, in order to attract love, abundance, prosperity, health, whatever it may be. So in some of the signs, there were exercises that were given to you from spirit, so you might want to listen to the other signs. At the end of the day, keep in mind that we all have attributes of all the signs. So if you're drawn to a certain sign that you're not necessarily one, just listen to your intuition and see if there's anything you can gain from there. At the end of the day, my aim is to help and enlighten you in a way that allows you to become a much more empowered being. With that said, if there is anything that doesn't make sense to you when you listen to it, do listen to it again down the road. I always say these messages will make sense to high majority of you as time goes on. The messages that I give, or the information that comes through, is very much relating to everything that we all experience, human condition. So you may be drawn to a different sign that you're not necessarily listening to, but something inside you says, hey, listen to it. You listen to it, and boom, that's your situation. Anyway, thank you so much for liking, for sharing, for subscribing. Do let me know how these messages connect with you. I am using a different camera this time, so some of the messages you'll notice I'm switching between two different cameras. The angles are different on my camera, so sometimes I look in different places, and if that's the case, my apologies. I am not used to this new equipment yet, so it may not be as smooth as I wanted to, so just bear with me. As time goes on, I will perfect it. Again, thank you so much. I wish you best of luck for private sessions. For private sessions, that information is down below for you. And if you would like to see the longer projections for 6 months, that information is down below for you on Vimeo. Thank you again so much. My name is Joanna the Medium. I wish you a wonderful month of February, and let's get going. Hello, beautiful Leos. These are going to be your messages for the month of February 2019. And just like in my other messages, or in my others with the other signs, I am asking what information Spirit can give you in order to heal your heart. So does that mean that all of you have a broken heart? No, absolutely not. And it's not that it's going to happen, but we all carry stuff within ourselves that often trips us up. And it feels like this is a very healing time for you. So let me just start with how I'm observing your energies. By the way, I'm supposed to state my intention. My intention is always to give you information that will allow you to think, that will allow you to perhaps change a perspective on something that you're struggling with, or allow you to look at something different, which I guess is the same as changing perspective. My aim is not to predict your future, because your future is dependent a lot on what you do. But my aim is to help highlight some areas of your life that potentially are tripping you up, to help you understand the reasons why they perhaps may be happening, and what it is that you are wanting to understand from that experience. Now, when I say wanting, it is a subconscious wanting. It is your soul's purpose, so to speak, or a lesson that's being learned. Although I personally do not like the term lesson, because we're not really here to learn. We're here to have a felt experience. In spirit, we have the idea or the mind understanding, but we don't have the felt perception. So that is my intention, and I was being asked to state that very clearly. So for those of you who are looking simply for predictions, I'm afraid this is not going to be one of those things. However, let's see what happens. This is kind of weird how they're asking me to say these things. All right. What I will say, first and foremost, is that I feel a lot of you are going through a time of a cathartic change, and the cathartic word is coming to me, and the symbolism of a volcano erupting is also symbolic. So sounds like many of you will be, is it venting off some steam. You may have been under a lot of pressure for quite some time. For some of you, you are still continuing or will continue some sort of a pressure-like environment or like a pressure cooker. And if that's the case, well, you can only be under pressure for so long before things blow up. That also speaks to interestingly enough, heart problem is coming up. So for those of you who are under a lot of stress, particularly if you're in the age bracket where, you know, we need to watch our heart, I guess that would be any age. If you have been under a lot of stress, and if you have not been getting a lot of sleep, and if you are fueling yourself or pumping yourself on coffee, and on adrenaline, and you know who you are, prolonging this is not going to serve you well at the end of the day. Your body is going to basically say, stop treating me like this, and it's going to create something that you may not like. So this is interesting, a little flag for some of you, and you know who you are, that you need to take better care of yourself. I am not saying anything is going to happen, but naturally, when we put our bodies under pressure for an extended period of time without adequate rest or sleep or nutrition or emotional relaxation and physical relaxation, then our body eventually starts to get really angry. So for some of you, this is the message. For others of you, this is very symbolic of getting your anger and frustration out of your system. That also acts as a pressure. Imagine your vessel, your body is like a pressure, and anger, frustration, and the like is like gas, and you keep squashing it or keep pushing it down, especially when you're under a lot of pressure. That can create the volcano effect. So the responsible thing for you to do is to take care of yourself first for a change. So this is a message for those of you who are under a tremendous amount of pressure and tremendous amount of stress, either with work, family, obligations, responsibilities, the things that we all have, which all those things are part of our life. However, there is a bit of almost a bit of like I don't want to say the word warning, because warning implies something bad is going to happen. That's not it at all. It is a reminder. There is a huge reminder for those of you who need to hear this, that you need to treat yourself at least half as important as you treat others, or as you consider importance of other things. In other words, if you are constantly running around, and I don't want to belabor this, but if you're constantly running around, and if you are constantly on the go, and if you are not sleeping, and if you're not eating properly, if you're not taking proper rest, if you're not drinking adequate water, yada, 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 your current conditions, body-wise or otherwise, may not necessarily improve, but you eventually are going to pay the price. So this is really, really, really specific. So I feel this is, even if it's just for one of you, even if it comes to one of you as a bit of a warning, where it's like, yeah, I've been thinking I've been doing too much, then yes, it is for you. Also, I don't need to speak of this, but apparently I'm supposed to. Exercise is very important, but it's also a really good way of getting rid of the excess anxious energy. So for those of you who are running around like chickens with no heads because you have all these responsibilities, that's, by the way, not exercise. taking time out for yourself in order to adequately take care of your body and doing something that relieves stress. Exercise may be one of those things that you may want to implement. And that could be various forms of exercise. The number 5 is coming up, and then I'm hearing healing. So 5 to me is May. It also represents the number of change. But I feel like the message here with the number 5 is this is a tremendous moment of healing. However, I do feel that a lot of you have been and are still currently undergoing a lot of stress. We are all in times of change. We are all undergoing energetic change, which not only creates shifts within ourselves, but things around us start to kind of, sometimes go haywire. So every person basically I speak to has some things going on in their life, but that's also part of life. Point is, life will always happen. Life will always be there. In order for us to deal with life in the best possible way, we have to be in a supreme condition ourselves. That's mind, body, spirit. And I feel like some of you are getting a spanking for not paying attention to your body and your constant nagging at you that you need to stop. For some of you, and I keep hearing the word healing. Healing can only take place when you allow it. So just like with anything, if you are sick, you need to take time out, go to a doctor, go through the motions of going there or driving there or somebody taking you there. In other words, there is an effort required on your part in order to get well. And that is a beautiful metaphor that says, hey, if you want to feel better or if you want things to be better, you need to take the responsibility for yourself. So I'm going to leave that alone because I feel like, whoa, that was for somebody. I'm also seeing the sign of transformation or the sign of death. No, that does not mean that somebody is dying. It will mean, however, that a part of you is either ready to go, ready to die, or you are in a process of transformation. And I'm being asked to define what transformation is. Well, first and foremost, when we go through transformation, it can feel a little bit like a pretzel. We're being twisted. We begin to feel things we haven't felt before, or we begin to feel things that have been dormant for a while. And these things begin to create a sense of confusion within ourselves, a lot regarding the life we live, the purpose we are here on earth for. What are we going to do with ourselves in the future? What do we do with our life now? We stop and think about basically who we are, why we are here, what is all this for? And that moment begins the process of transformation. So that's very interesting how I'm being asked to kind of explain this, and that's a very, very, very basic explanation. Another explanation is when a part of you is being ripped from you, and that feels often very uncomfortable. This could be anything related to the way you feel about yourself, to the conditions you are under, which are perhaps too stressful for too long and you continue to do so. Anything that you have been used to, part of your life or part of your identity, is slowly but surely pulling away from you, which also means circumstances. You may feel like people or things are being pulled away from you, or you are pulling away from them. It often feels in those moments where we feel like we have no control. And those are usually the most difficult times to go through because, well, let's face it, we're creatures of comfort. We want to feel safe. When we go through transformation, oftentimes the basic feeling of safety and security is being undermined or it's being uprooted. And obviously that feeling can be uprooted in gazillion different ways, from, detaching from a situation that brings you financial stability, from a relationship that you had for a long time and it was your norm, to any other attachments that you have. Believe it or not, even letting go of a an addiction, like for example, drinking, let's use that as an example. If it's something done for a prolonged period of time, and if it serves a certain purpose, which it always does, any addiction fulfills a fundamental need of something that is missing inside. And this is just the way we deal with it effectively. If one has been addicted to drinking, letting go of that is very difficult. I'm sure many of you have quit smoking, you've quit eating sugar and other things that were particularly good at the time of doing it. So letting go of that is very transformative, but it also can feel very insecure, because we depend on those things psychologically in order to make us feel safe and secure. So what I'm trying to say here is that feels like a lot of you are going through a major transformation. And I don't say this with a light heart. What do I mean by that? No, I don't mean it's sad. I don't mean that I'm saying it because it's bad. It's a lot of energy. And hence, you may experience feeling slightly off. So why don't I go through some of the things that I have here. So what are we leaving behind, or what is leaving you? Very interesting, because Two of Pentacles, Two of Pentacles came up in reverse position. And there's several things that come to me with this card. Number one, I hear the word confusion. Confusion around commitment. Should I or shouldn't I? Should I or shouldn't I? So either you are in a position where you are not sure what to decide, or this is something that you have felt or have been in just in a recent past. I do feel it has to do with a relationship or a commitment, or relationship or a job, more likely than not. And this could be, or it could be commitment. Somebody relying on you a lot, and you decided that life can't be that way anymore. And you were confused. You didn't know what to do. You were unsure of how to deal with it. That's just one example. But the fact that it came through, I bet, well, there's probably one person that actually connects with this message. So a sense of confusion. I also feel lack of opportunities is what's coming up. Yes, that's a big one. For most of you, it's going to be lack of opportunities, financially speaking, or monetary. I hear trying to decide what to do next. So I feel some of you were questioning, what should I do next? And I feel it has to do either with a job or with a relationship. Now, keep in mind that my aim was to give you information that would allow you to heal your heart. So let's see how this unfolds. Okay, so this is what you're leaving behind. If you have been undecisive, or if you have felt lack of fortune in your life, or lack of security, or lack of financial opportunities, or just opportunities, this is good omen to have, because it's leaving you. This energy is going to be no longer very shortly. What might you expect in February, or in this month? Interesting, because I just went, oh, okay. So we have the Knight of Wands, which is your symbol. It is a fire element, but it's shown in reverse position. And I usually don't ask for clarifications, but I did. So let's just talk about this. You may feel slightly edgy in the month of February, perhaps because of this confusion or this lack of choices that you are experiencing or have experienced earlier. You may feel outbursts of anger. You may be like a hot button. It's better not to touch you, or you might bite. So I'm not saying that you might be angry a lot of the time, but I feel like you're going through some fierce moments. Now, I asked for clarification, like I mentioned, and I said, give me more. Eight of Wands showed up in reverse. So it sounds like in February, the reason why you might feel a little bit edgy is because things are not going your way. They're either not going your way, or they're not going as fast as you wanted them to go. This will create, or has created already for some of you, a sense of disappointment. Now, it's not because something is wrong necessarily, but because whatever it is that's right isn't here yet. And I feel this is where the agitation comes from. Okay, I'm still trying to learn the angles. So if that's the case for you, and I am pretty sure it is connected to this two of coins, which I keep hearing the word commitment. So perhaps some of you have high hopes for something, relationship, job, I don't know, you had high hopes, and you were hoping, you know, it would turn out obviously the way you want to, but for some reason it's not quite there yet. And this could be a job, this could be anything, this could be lack of movement in your career, but it feels very transitory, even though it's a bit of a disappointment. Whatever this is, it feels like a very short time. So in other words, I feel if it's going to happen, it's going to happen within the matter of few weeks, but it's going to come and go fairly quickly. So that's a good sign, or that's a good omen for me, because at the end of the day, and I'm going to spoil the surprise for you, at the end of the day, and I feel this is in March, this is how you're going to feel, which is victorious. So if there is something in your life that's not working out the way you want it to, and if it continues to feel that way in February, take note of this message. This is at the end of the day how you will come out of that situation. The end result will be different for everyone, obviously, but this card is not showing up this way. It's showing up this way. And it feels to me like it's family related. Yes, it can be career, but it feels to me more relationships. So this is where ultimately this is going. However, we're not there yet. So if this is how you feel in the month of February, take a break. Perhaps it's a great time for you to take the proverbial chill pill. Perhaps it's a great time for you to relax. And if there is little movement in whatever area you're dealing with, maybe take the opportunity to walk away from it for a while, whatever that is for you, mentally, physically, or otherwise, and take care of yourself for a change. Notice how this is very much geared towards those of you who are very busy with busy schedules, with a lot of pressure on your shoulders. And of course, this can be interpreted by anybody, but this is the sense I feel. You may also be a single person, but you have this pressure on yourself. And that alone can make you feel, well, sometimes not, well, like it's too much. So actually it doesn't have to be, related to a relationship, but we also have a relationship with ourselves. So where is this going? Another interesting message. And I asked for clarification because, so let me show you. The Three of Swords showed up, which I know many people talk about this card in terms of a breakup or a relationship ending. Yeah, I mean, that can be the case. That can be the case. But what I heard was actually the word disappointment. So it's not, how do I say this? There's a part of me that's having a conversation. I'm going, I don't like giving them this message, and and this is what I hear. Show them the next message. Okay. So when I asked for clarification, I said, what is this about? You've got the Star. I just heard the word retribution. I don't even know what that is. Retribution. Well, from what I'm being shown, retribution is essentially back to balance. So if there is a disappointment that you have experienced or will be experiencing, in whatever capacity, whether it's job related, whether it's relationship related, family, situational, whatever it may be, what's coming out of this actually is a renewal. Now, in order to be renewed, we first have to be renewed. In other words, is reborn. In order to be reborn or renewed, we have to first die. Now, that's obviously a metaphor. So there is something that may be leaving you or has left you not that long ago, but ultimately what's happening is it's allowing you to go through a transformation, which is what I was seeing at the very beginning, and it will ultimately allow you to become much more emotionally in the flow. So that's why I'm saying I feel this is a huge month for you to heal. No different than any other sign. And like I said, February is typically thought of as the month of love. And I asked for messages to heal our hearts. And typically, I'm not a tarot reader, but from whatever little I know about tarot, the Three of Swords is typically, like I said, disappointment, a broken heart. Generally it doesn't feel very good, but you're coming out of this. On the other side of that, with a lot more determination and a lot more flow of peace. Remember, this is where we're heading. So for some of you, you're going to experience this in March. For some of you, the state of victory or the victory feeling is going to be later in the year. There is no question in my mind that majority of you who listen to this are going through a transformation. I don't guarantee too many things to people, but this I will guarantee. And I know this because I'm going through transformation as well. All right, so this is where you are heading ultimately. What might be tripping you up? Very interesting. Deep polarity. So I actually said, tell me, what does it mean? What is deep polarity? I asked Spirit, what is deep polarity? And what I got is basically essentially when someone thinks in terms of black and white. So it's either this or that, good or bad, evil God, black and white, cold and hot. And there's not a lot of room spent in the gray area, so to speak. So whatever polarity is with you, if you are someone who is conditioned to think in terms of black and white, I'm supposed to give you an example. Okay, let's say somebody is looking for a job and they don't get the job necessarily that they want, but whatever they got is actually pretty good. And because, for example, there is no title to say this is what the title is, all of a sudden the person thinks it's that they're not important. I don't feel that's a good example. I'm going to see if there's another one. Let's say you're someone who is geared towards negative thinking, and you are either extremely happy or you go very quickly to this other place that's maybe angry and bitter and frustrated. When that happens, because we're tapping to an aspect of us that's rooted in negativity, that is the best way for me to describe this feeling. So this is what might be tripping you up. You might be all over the place with your mind in terms of what is happening in your environment. Remember, some of you might be feeling a little bit edgy, and it could be that edginess that you feel because things are not going your way that may have you going to these places of disappointment and place of pessimism and place of extreme fear. So just watch out for that. So I said, okay, how can we help them? What can they do with this? This is very interesting because the power of sound came up, and what I felt is that the message here is about how you speak to yourself, but it isn't necessarily with a loud voice. It is how you communicate with yourself to yourself inside of you. The other part of this message is that obviously the sound of music, listening to music, singing is very healing, but this is not so much the message that I get. What I get here is that whatever the deep polarity is, whatever the black and white thinking is, you have conversations like this within yourself, which doesn't serve you. Okay? Example, let's say, I'm having a very difficult time trying to find an example, but I see these swings from one extreme to another. So just notice, particularly in February, when things don't go our way, when they're not moving as fast as we want, when they're not moving at all, we have a tendency to go to bad places. We have a tendency to get into our negative thinking, to our negative talk, to our pessimism, to being the victim. We have a tendency to do that. All I'm saying here is watch for that in February, because that's going to trip you up, and watch how, as a result of feeling this way, how you communicate to yourself in your head. And when you begin to pay attention to that, I feel some of you might surprise yourself, because the conversation you have with yourself is very indicative of the relationship you have with you. Now, I've said this in another video. The relationship you have with yourself is the relationships you will have with another, and also with things outside of you. And this was said to me a few weeks ago, and I actually thought that was a very interesting point that was made, because, example, if, let's talk about love. If some of you are looking for a loving relationship where there is mutual respect, love, and all that beautiful stuff, but you reject yourself on regular basis, you are very critical of yourself, you are always thinking in negative terms, you are very pessimistic in terms of relationships, you always think people say things about you, or they think the worst about you. If this is the conversation you have with yourself on regular basis, then that is coming from your belief system. That's the relationship you have with you. That will determine the relationship you have with another. So you are either going to find someone who is very judgmental, who is not respectful, who is not all those things that you want, or you will become very controlling. That's one of the examples. So that is an example that comes up. In other words, notice how you are at odds with yourself, and then notice how that plays out in your life. So just kind of pay attention. Now, what is working for you? Very interesting. So coming apart in this position came up, and I thought, isn't that interesting? Well, obviously we know that coming apart symbolizes that something is working no longer. Something is trying to be not part of your life. Either you're leaving something or something is leaving you. However, yes, this is what this means, but it's more about understanding why you are in a particular situation. Perhaps it's understanding the lack of choices, the situation that you are leaving, or the energy that's leaving you, which is the confusion or lack of choices. Perhaps it's about things not moving your way, moving fast enough, or going in your direction. Perhaps it's about the disappointment that you have felt or will be feeling for a little while, but ultimately brings you to greater clarity and rebirth. It's about understanding. And I feel the purpose of this message is to kind of give you a bit of a hey, just so you know, the moment you begin to see things from a different perspective, and when you begin to understand the deeper aspects, it is a lot easier to move on from whatever you were dealing with, hence the rebirth. There is no question in my mind, none whatsoever, that some of you either left something behind recently, or are currently leaving something behind, or something is leaving you. There's no question in my mind. Either it's a situation, or your expectations have not been met, some job has ended, you decided to pull a plug on something. And obviously when that happens, oftentimes it doesn't feel good. But I feel it's almost like, for those of you who this makes sense, it's necessary for you to get to the next step, whatever that may be for you. Now, what might be the next step? Well, the card of completion comes up. And what this is saying here, basically what this is saying, that's the serpent, completion in reverse. What this is saying here is that many of you are at the end of a cycle. In other words, lesson has been learned, certain things are coming to an end. It means time to go. But because it's coming in these positions, I feel like some of you are not wanting to let something go. And sometimes we cling on to things that are dead. And I don't mean physically dead. Energetically, they're no longer useful. We've outlived certain situations, or certain responsibility we had is no longer ours. That's an interesting. But at the end of the day, the deeper spiritual message is many of you are coming to a point of conclusion of a certain lesson with yourself, and it's time to move on. And that's where the word attachments come in. I saw the number 15 when I was meditating on you, and I knew right away it was to do with attachments, because that's the devil card in a tarot deck. And I knew right away that this is going to be a month where either you will be letting go of certain attachments. And remember, attachments don't have to be physical. As a matter of fact, they rarely are. Attachments are emotional, mental and emotional attachments. So that's why I feel this month for you is very, very, very healing. I asked for additional messages because I felt that this was kind of, very interesting. Some of you I'm being asked to say this. Some of you have a very, very strong intuition, and some of you are not working in accordance with what your intuition says. So you are refusing to hear yourself or your own inner voice. That usually doesn't work for a very long time, because eventually, your intuition is never wrong. It's hard to trust it sometimes, but your intuition is never wrong. And I feel for some of you, you've been getting very strong messages and you have not been listening. So again, maybe you're too busy. Maybe part of your intuition is to take care of yourself or to let something go. But the fear factor comes in and says for whatever reason that you can't. So that's something that comes up. Thank you. The blade comes up, which is all about the mind. This to me is very much like the Ace of Swords. It's about clarity. It's about being on point with your mind, with your communication, and with your thought. Having your mind be sharp and at peace and not angry or afraid and all over the place. This is about you using your mind like the sharp tool that it is. And when we have these thoughts in our heads which are polarizing, okay, then we are not in control of our thoughts, number one, and we're also much less in control of our life. And sometimes it happens. Sometimes we just do not feel in control. And at the end of the day, we're really not in control of very much at all in life. We're in control of ourselves, but rarely are we in control of life if you really think about it. So this is about regaining your mental agility and your mental state, which will allow you to be much more responsive to life in a way that affords you the ability to feel safe and solid versus, unsafe, insecure, and all over the place. It's got a lot to do with our mind. Everything to do with our mind. Granted, sometimes situations happen where, we feel off, and that's okay. I don't feel that's the case for most of you. This is about something that has been long-standing. Another card came up, and I was asked to leave it or to have it for you. It's sacrifice. And this is a very interesting message, because this message is about letting go of that which is most important to you. Now that is pretty darn hard. And I want to give you an example. Notice there's 2 4s on there. Double 4 means stability and means 8. 8 is strength. So what example can I give you? Again, I'm having a very difficult time trying to find an example. Okay, let's say your idea of security means, that's an example. Let's say your idea of security is a person that looks a certain way, and I know that's a stupid example, but let's just hang with me. A person looks a certain way, makes a certain amount of money, they drive a certain car, and they, I don't know, they look a certain way. I might have said that. And to you, it's a very drastic and stupid example, but to you, let's say, that is your idea of safety and security, and you cling on to it for dear life. And without that, you believe you can't have safety because this thing represents safety and security. That's a drastic example, which is kind of silly, but bear with me. And the universe says, okay, what you're looking for is safety and security. We get it. But let go of the need to cling onto it so much. Because when you cling onto it so much, it basically symbolizes that you're afraid you're not going to have it. That's why you're holding on to it so much, so bad. So in terms of, that is number one, it is a huge healing opportunity when we allow ourselves to let go of something that means so much to us, but we don't let go of the desire, but the need that is rooted in fear or lack or whatever it is in terms of quote unquote negative. Let's say you are in a relationship. Again, another example. Let's say someone is in a relationship and clearly the relationship isn't serving you anymore. And this could be a job relationship. It could be a spouse, girlfriend, boyfriend, girlfriend, boyfriend relationship. You get it. And the relationship isn't working for you. It's you've outgrown it long time ago. But your need to stay safe and secure with this in this situation is so deep that even though you realize the situation has outgrown you or you have outgrown it, you're hanging on to it for dear life. And not only will that situation not bring you more safety and security, because if you're not being true to yourself, you're not going to feel safe and secure. It's that simple. It is to let go of the need to hold on to it so much. I feel like I'm having a difficult time adequately expressing that, but I'm going to have to let that go and just let the message find your way to you somehow. Notice this lady, what she's doing. She's letting go of something that feels very important to her. And the reason why she's letting go of it is because she knows she can have it at any time. But if she holds on to it, she stifles it. In other words, another example. One of the beauty about a bird is the fact that it's free and it gets to fly anywhere it wants. It's part of the beauty of looking at a bird because it's free. It can fly anywhere. We can't do that. Well, unless it's planes. That's interesting how it came up. Maybe birds are somehow symbolic to you. But think of the symbology of a bird and freedom and how a bird in a cage, although it's a bird, it's still a bird. It's really not free. It's probably not very happy. If you're in a relationship where you're trying to hold on to something so much, you might actually stifle it. You might stifle the fire, or the fire is no longer there. So anyway, the symbology here is let go of the need to hold on to something that's so important to you. If you're meant to have it, you will have it. And if not, something else will come in its place. And that's about letting go. That's about attachments. That's heavy duty attachments. So you notice it says sacrifice here, right? So I feel this is how I'm going to leave this with you. It's a very, very interesting message. And I'm hoping that the rightful owners of this message will find this video. I always trust that will happen. And although it feels a little bit convoluted to me, I feel it's going to mean something to you at some point. I also know that majority of the time, for majority of you, this makes no sense at the beginning of when you hear it. But when you hear it again, every single message I get is, it makes so much more sense. So this may be valid for you in January. It may be valid for you in February. It may be valid for you in March. Point is, this is the energy around you, and I feel majority of you will resonate with this on some level within the next several weeks or couple of months. I wish you best of luck. I wish if you celebrate Valentine's, happy Valentine's to you. Of course, if you would like a private session with me, that information is down below because these are general. I have no way of knowing what is for you particularly. And yeah, I think that's it. Have yourself a wonderful month of February. Take care of yourself, take care of your body, and I look forward to seeing you soon.